Commander Olivia Russell stood at the bridge of the UES Pathfinder, humanity's most advanced quantum vessel, as reality itself seemed to bend before them. The massive crystalline structure that had just emerged from hyperspace dwarfed their ship like a mountain beside a pebble. After centuries of searching the cosmos, humanity had finally made contact. "Quantum readings are unprecedented, Commander," reported Lieutenant James Kumar, his dark eyes reflecting the ethereal glow of his holographic displays. "Their energy signature suggests technology far beyond our current understanding." At 45, Russell had prepared her entire career for this moment. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back in a regulation braid, and she straightened her midnight blue uniform with practiced precision. Open communications, standard first contact protocols. The view screen shimmered to life, revealing a being that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Its form coalesced into something vaguely humanoid, composed of swirling emerald energy contained within a crystalline exoskeleton. "I am Commander Olivia Russell of the United Earth ship Pathfinder. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations and cultural exchange." The response came in perfect English, dripping with amusement. "How charming. I am Overseer Xylos of the Zethrian Collective. We've been observing your species' clumsy attempts at quantum manipulation, like watching infants discover their own reflections." Russell felt her crew tense at the condescension, but maintained her diplomatic composure. "While we may be younger than your civilization, we've made significant strides in quantum mechanics and—" "Strides?" Xylos interrupted, their crystalline form chiming with what could only be laughter. "Your quantum drives are equivalent to stone tools. We mastered the fundamental forces of reality while your ancestors were still discovering fire." Dr. Katerina Volkov, the ship's lead physicist, stepped forward. "Perhaps we could share insights. Our approach to quantum entanglement has yielded unique results." More crystalline laughter joined from off-screen. "Unique? Your unique approaches are like watching a child draw with sticks in the dirt and calling it mathematics. Though I suppose we shouldn't expect more from beings still trapped in physical form." For the next hour, the Zethrians continued their mockery, dismissing every human achievement as primitive entertainment. They spoke of humanity as one might discuss amusing pets, occasionally capable of surprising tricks, but ultimately insignificant. Lieutenant Kumar quietly ran deep scans throughout the exchange, gathering every bit of data possible while the Zethrians reveled in their superiority. Russell noticed his subtle nods. They were learning more than their arrogant visitors realized. "We will permit your species limited access to our outer trading outposts," Xylos finally declared. "Perhaps in a few millennia, you'll evolve enough to be of use. Do try not to damage anything with your crude physical forms." After the transmission ended, Russell turned to her crew. "Report." Kumar's fingers danced across his console. "Commander, their arrogance made them careless. They never bothered to mask their quantum signatures. The data we've gathered, there's something peculiar about their technology. They're using quantum mechanics, yes, but there's an underlying pattern they seem completely blind to." Dr. Volkov was already analyzing the readings, her expression transforming from humiliation to intrigue. "These patterns, they align with Dr. Isabella Martinez's theoretical work on dimensional intersection points. She's been arguing that quantum mechanics is merely a surface-level manifestation of something far more fundamental." "Can you get this data to her securely?" Russell asked. "Yes, but—" Volkov hesitated. "Her project is classified beyond my clearance level. I'm not supposed to know about it." Russell made her decision. "Lieutenant Kumar, wipe this conversation from the logs. Dr. Volkov, send everything we've gathered to Dr. Martinez. The Zethrians think we're primitive animals fumbling in the dark. Let's show them how dangerous it can be to underestimate humanity." As the Pathfinder began its journey home, Russell gazed at the vast expanse of space. The Zethrians' mockery had stung, but they had given humanity something far more valuable than their respect. They had given them motivation. In their arrogance, they had revealed secrets they didn't even know they possessed. In a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Isabella Martinez would soon receive a data packet that would change everything. The Zethrians thought humans were playing with toys, but they would soon learn that sometimes the most profound discoveries come from seeing with fresh eyes, unbound by millennia of assumptions. Russell allowed herself a small smile. The Zethrians had dismissed humanity as primitive beings bound by physical forms. They would learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology, but in their ability to see possibilities where others saw limitations. "Set course for Earth, maximum speed," she ordered. "We have work to do." Dr. Isabella Martinez stood before the shimmering containment field in her underground laboratory, watching as reality itself seemed to hiccup. The facility, codenamed Project Oracle, thrummed with energy as experimental equipment probed the boundaries between dimensions. After 15 years of theoretical work, they were finally seeing results, though not the kind anyone had expected. Another anomaly in Sector 4, Dr. Richard Blackwood reported, his fingers moving across holographic controls. The British physicist had been her partner in this endeavor for the past decade. The particles aren't just entangling. They're shifting somehow. Not shifting, Isabella corrected, her eyes reflecting the quantum field's ethereal light. They're phasing through dimensional planes. She brushed a strand of gray-streaked black hair from her face, studying the readings with intense concentration. The secure terminal behind them chimed. Isabella turned to see a heavily encrypted message from Dr. Volkov aboard the Pathfinder. As the data streamed across her screens, her eyes widened. "Richard, look at these quantum signatures." He joined her, his expression shifting from curiosity to astonishment. "These readings from the Zethrian ship, they're almost identical to our anomaly in Sector 4. "Not almost," Isabella said, excitement building in her voice. "They're exactly the same pattern. The Zethrians are using quantum mechanics to brute force their way through space-time. But look here." She highlighted a subtle fluctuation in the data. "They're completely missing the dimensional intersection points. They're so focused on quantum manipulation they can't see the bigger picture." Richard leaned closer, his scientific skepticism warring with growing excitement. "Are you saying what I think you're saying? Everyone, including the Zethrians, treats quantum mechanics as the foundation," Isabella explained, already running new calculations. "But it's not the foundation. It's just our three-dimensional perspective of something much larger. We've been trying to break through the dimensional barrier, but what if we don't need to break it at all?" The next few weeks became a blur of activity. Isabella's team worked around the clock, combining their theoretical work with the Zethrian data. What emerged was unprecedented, a theory that would revolutionize humanity's understanding of the universe. "The dimensional barrier isn't a wall," Isabella explained to the United Earth Defense Council. "It's more like a lens. We've been trying to punch through it. But what we really need to do is adjust our focus. The quantum particles aren't moving through space. Space is moving around them." Admiral Thomas Jackson, head of Earth Defense, leaned forward. "Can you weaponize it?" Isabella shared a knowing look with Richard. "Better. We can transcend it. The Zethrians think they've mastered quantum technology, but they're still playing in 3 dimensions. We found a way to step outside the board entirely." Construction began immediately on a prototype vessel. Unlike the crystalline ships of the Zethrians, this one was built around a core of curved space itself, held in place by quantum fields tuned to dimensional frequencies the Zethrians had never imagined. As the ship took shape, troubling reports arrived from the frontier. The Zethrians were expanding their presence, establishing outposts in neighboring systems. Their message was clear. They were claiming this sector of space, treating humanity's territory like a quaint reservation for primitive beings. "How long until the prototype is ready?" Admiral Jackson asked, watching construction through the facility's observation deck. 3 months, Isabella replied. "Maybe less. The principles are sound. We just need to scale up the containment fields." "Make it 2 months," he ordered. "Long-range sensors show the Zethrians are up to something big. We need to be ready." Isabella turned to object, but stopped short. Behind the Admiral's stern expression, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The latest sensor data showed something massive approaching from deep space, something that made even the Zethrian's quantum signatures look primitive in comparison. As she returned to her lab, the prototype ship loomed behind her. Unlike the elegant crystalline aesthetics of Zethrian vessels, this ship embraced its human origins. Its hull was a deep obsidian that seemed to drink in light, covered in geometric patterns that made the eye slide away in confusion. The Zethrians had called humans primitive for their reliance on physical forms. Soon they would learn that humanity's greatest strength was their ability to think beyond physical limitations. In her private lab, Isabella pulled up the latest sensor data from the frontier. Behind the obvious readings of Zethrian activity, there was something else, something that made her theoretical models scream in protest. The Zethrians weren't just expanding. They were running from something. 2 months, she muttered, diving back into her work. Let's hope that's enough time. The prototype ship, christened UES Hyperion, cast impossible shadows in Project Oracle's cavernous hangar. Commander Nathan Drake walked its perimeter, studying the vessel that defied conventional physics. At points, the geometric patterns on its hull seemed to overlap with themselves, creating visual paradoxes that gave him a headache if he looked too long. "Final systems check complete," Dr. Martinez's voice echoed through the facility. "Quantum core is stable, dimensional matrices are aligned. We're as ready as we'll ever be." Drake watched his hand-picked crew board the vessel. Each had been chosen not just for their technical expertise, but for their ability to adapt to the impossible. Lieutenant Kumar had transferred from the Pathfinder, bringing his experience with Zethrian technology. Dr. Blackwood had practically lived in the engine room for the past month, fine-tuning the quantum core. "Commander Drake." Admiral Jackson approached, his expression grim. "We've received new intelligence. The Zethrian fleet is mobilizing at an unprecedented scale. Something has them spooked." Drake nodded, unsurprised. The dimensional distortions Dr. Martinez detected, growing stronger. Our long-range sensors show tiers forming in spacetime throughout Zethrian territory. They're evacuating entire systems, but they're keeping the reason classified even from their own allies. Inside the Hyperion, Isabella worked at the dimensional control station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. The ship's core technology was built around her theories that space, time, and dimension were all perspectives of a larger whole. While the Zethrians brute forced their way through space, the Hyperion would simply step between the dimensional planes. "Commander," Kumar called from his station. "Long-range sensors are picking up something massive on the edge of Zethrian space. Whatever it is, it's folding reality around itself." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a region of space that seemed to bend and twist. Stars disappeared into the distortion, while others appeared where none had existed before. The sensor data made no sense, as if they were trying to describe a four-dimensional object with three-dimensional mathematics. "Dr. Martinez," Drake called. "What are we looking at?" Isabella's hands flew across her controls, running calculations. It's like nothing we theorized. The dimensional distortions aren't just bending space-time. They're rewriting the fundamental laws of physics in that region. The Zethrians. Admiral Jackson asked through the comm. "No," Isabella shook her head. "Their technology is crude compared to this. Whatever's coming, it doesn't just understand the higher dimensions. It lives in them." A transmission cut through their discussion, a priority signal from the nearest Zethrian outpost. The crystalline form of Overseer Xylos appeared, their usual condescension replaced by something that looked suspiciously like fear. "Commander Drake," Xylos began, their voice lacking its usual musical quality. "We are aware of your vessel's launch. Our sensors indicate you've achieved something unexpected." "Interesting choice of words," Drake replied coolly. "Just a few months ago, you called us primitive beings playing with toys. The situation has changed," Xylos said. We're detecting dimensional anomalies that threaten the entire sector. Perhaps our species could benefit from sharing insights." Drake shared a look with Isabella, who nodded slightly. "You mean you need our help?" "What we need," Xylos's form flickered with agitation, "is to ensure the survival of all sentient life in this sector. What approaches is beyond anything we've encountered in 50,000 years of space travel." The sensor readings suddenly spiked. The distortion at the edge of Zethrian space had grown, consuming entire star systems in moments. The mathematics behind it were impossible, or rather, they were possible only if you understood that conventional physics was just a shadow cast by higher dimensional laws. "Dr. Martinez," Drake turned to his science officer. "Can the Hyperion handle those distortions?" Isabella studied the readings, her mind racing through calculations. "Our dimensional drive doesn't just manipulate space-time. It lets us step outside it entirely. Theoretically, we could navigate those distortions by moving through the higher dimensions." "Theoretically?" She met his gaze. "We built this ship to prove humanity's worth. Looks like we're about to prove it sooner than expected." Drake turned back to the screen, where Xylos waited anxiously. "We'll help, but on one condition. From now on, we work as equals. No more talk of primitive beings or physical limitations." The Zethrian overseer's crystalline form seemed to deflate slightly. "Agreed. Though I must ask, how did you achieve this breakthrough so quickly?" Drake allowed himself a small smile. "We stopped trying to master the universe and learned to see it with new eyes instead. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from accumulated knowledge, but from the ability to question everything you think you know." As the Hyperion prepared for its first real mission, Drake couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Zethrians had dismissed humanity as simple physical beings, never realizing that their very physicality, their need to overcome limitations, had driven them to see beyond the boundaries the Zethrians took for granted. "All stations, report readiness," he ordered. The crew responded with crisp efficiency, each voice steady despite the unprecedented challenge ahead. They were about to attempt something no human had ever done: navigate the higher dimensions themselves. "Remember," Isabella said quietly from her station, "whatever we encounter out there, it's not just about proving ourselves to the Zethrians anymore. It's about proving that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our perspective." The Hyperion's quantum core hummed to life, its dimensional drives beginning their impossible calculations. Ahead of them, reality itself bent and twisted, waiting to test humanity's newest achievement. Drake took a deep breath. "Take us in." The Hyperion slipped between dimensions like a needle through fabric, leaving conventional physics behind. Through the view screen, reality itself seemed to fragment into crystalline patterns, each shard showing a different version of space-time. "Dimensional stability holding at 94%, Isabella reported, her voice tight with concentration. "The math works, Commander. We're actually doing this." Lieutenant Kumar's console erupted with alerts. Multiple Zethrian vessels approaching. They're struggling with the distortions. Through the kaleidoscopic view screen, they could see the crystalline ships of the Zethrian fleet, their quantum drives flaring as they attempted to navigate the twisted space, where once they had moved with elegant grace, now they seemed clumsy, like swimmers fighting a riptide. "Their technology can't handle these conditions," Isabella explained. "They're trying to force their way through using brute quantum manipulation, but the distortions operate on a higher dimensional level." "Open a channel," Drake ordered. Xylos appeared on screen, their crystalline form flickering with interference. "Impossible," the Zethrian overseer breathed, watching the Hyperion move effortlessly through the distorted space. "How are you maintaining stability?" "We're not fighting the distortions," Drake explained. "We're moving with them, through them. Your quantum technology tries to overpower dimensional barriers. Ours steps around them entirely." Suddenly, the sensor readings spiked dramatically. A massive tear appeared in the fabric of space-time, dwarfing even the Zethrian fleet. Through it emerged something that defied description. A vast, shifting mass of higher dimensional geometry that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. By the eternal crystal, Xylos whispered. The architects have returned. The what? Drake demanded, but before Xylos could respond, the entity reached out with tendrils of pure mathematical force. 3 Zethrian ships vanished instantly, not destroyed but simply recalculated out of existence. All ships, fall back. Xylos commanded, panic evident in their voice. Our weapons are useless against them. They don't just control space-time. They write its laws. The Hyperion sensors struggled to make sense of what they were seeing. The entity wasn't attacking in any conventional sense. It was rewriting the fundamental constants of physics in localized areas, making matter and energy behave according to entirely different rules. Dr. Martinez, Drake turned to his science officer. Options. Isabella's fingers flew across her controls, analyzing the impossible data. The entity, it's not just using higher dimensions, it's generating them, creating new spatial dimensions as easily as we draw lines on paper. But her eyes widened with sudden understanding. That's it. Commander, remember what you said about not fighting the distortions. We can apply the same principle here. She nodded excitedly. The Zethrians try to impose their will on space-time. These beings write new laws of physics. But we can navigate between them. We don't need to fight or rewrite. We just need to understand. Drake made his decision. Calculate an intercept course. Lieutenant Kumar, divert all available power to the dimensional drives. Commander. Xylos cut in. What are you doing? You cannot possibly hope to engage an architect. We're not going to engage it, Drake replied. We're going to talk to it. The Hyperion moved closer to the entity, its dimensional drives allowing it to exist in the same mathematical space. As they approached, the being's attacks seemed to pause, as if noticing them for the first time. Isabella's console lit up with new data. Commander, I'm detecting patterns. Not communication exactly, but it's like the entity is writing equations into the fabric of space-time itself. Can you respond in kind? She bit her lip, considering. Maybe. Our dimensional drive doesn't just let us navigate higher dimensions. It lets us describe them. If I can use it to express mathematical concepts, do it. Isabella began programming complex dimensional equations into the drive, using the ship's unique technology to express abstract mathematical concepts in the language of physics itself. The entity paused its assault on the Zethrian fleet, its impossible geometry shifting to focus on the Hyperion. For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the view screen filled with cascading mathematical symbols, not written or projected, but expressed through the curvature of space-time itself. It's responding, Isabella whispered. It's curious. I don't think it expected to find beings capable of understanding its language. Drake turned to the screen where Xylos watched in amazement. You called them the architects. What are they? The Zethrian's crystalline form trembled slightly. They are said to be the first beings to achieve dimensional transcendence. Our oldest records speak of them as the shapers of universal law. We thought them long extinct, but now, the entity's mathematical communication grew more complex, filling the space around them with geometric patterns that hurt the mind to look at. It's not hostile, Isabella realized, reading the patterns. It's testing. All this destruction, it wasn't an attack. It was trying to see how we would respond to changes in fundamental physics, like a scientist running experiments. Drake leaned forward. Can you tell it to stop? I think, Isabella said slowly. I can do better than that. I can show it why it should. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced precision, using the Hyperion's dimensional drive to craft a complex mathematical proof, one that demonstrated how life itself was an emergent property of current universal constants, how consciousness arose from the interplay of existing dimensions. The entity's response was immediate. The distortions began to fade, reality slowly knitting itself back together. Its geometric form shifted, becoming somehow less incomprehensible, more respectful. "What did you do?" Silos demanded. Isabella smiled. "I showed it that the greatest discoveries come not from rewriting reality, but from understanding it. That consciousness itself is a way of perceiving higher dimensions, and that by destroying our universe's laws, it was actually limiting the possibilities for new understanding to emerge." Drake nodded slowly. "You taught it to see with new eyes." The entity's final communication came not in mathematics, but in a restructuring of local spacetime that left both human and Zethrian sensors humming with new data, gifts of knowledge, freely given from one consciousness to another. As the architect departed, folding itself back into higher dimensions, Silos turned to Drake. "Perhaps," the overseer said quietly, "we too have something to learn about seeing with new eyes." Drake smiled. "That, overseer, is the beginning of wisdom." 1 year after the architect encounter, the UES Hyperion docked at Harmony Station, the first joint human-Zethrian research facility. The station's unique design reflected its dual heritage. Crystalline structures flowed seamlessly into geometric patterns that played with dimensional space, creating an environment where both species could work as equals. Commander Drake stood in the main conference chamber, watching as Dr. Martinez demonstrated humanity's latest breakthrough to a mixed audience of human and Zethrian scientists. The arrogance that had once characterized their crystalline visitors was gone, replaced by genuine curiosity and respect. The architect's gift wasn't just advanced technology, Isabella explained, manipulating a holographic model of intersecting dimensions. It was a fundamental insight into the nature of consciousness itself. We now understand that awareness, any form of awareness, is actually a way of perceiving and processing higher dimensions. Which explains, added Silos, now serving as chief liaison between their species, why your approach succeeded where ours failed. We sought to master dimensional science through pure technology. You understood it by expanding your consciousness. The holographic display showed the merged technologies of both civilizations, Zethrian quantum manipulation guided by human dimensional insight. Together, they had begun to unlock the mysteries the architect had shared. We've detected 37 other architect entities in nearby galactic sectors. Lieutenant Kumar reported from his station. All of them have responded positively to our mathematical communications. They're not destroyers or conquerors. They're teachers, waiting for students ready to understand their lessons. Drake smiled, remembering the fear and awe that felt during that first encounter. And to think, a year ago, we were worried about proving ourselves worthy of joining galactic civilization. An error in perspective on our part, Xylos admitted, their crystalline form chiming with what humans now recognize as rueful amusement. We measured advancement by mastery over physical laws, never realizing that true evolution lies in transcending such limited viewpoints entirely. The station's sensors suddenly registered a new dimensional signature. Through the vast observation windows, space itself seemed to fold, revealing an architect entity. But unlike their first encounter, its appearance now seemed beautiful rather than terrifying. A glimpse of higher reality made comprehensible through evolved understanding. They're ready for the next lesson, Isabella said, reading the mathematical patterns rippling through spacetime. And this time, they want both our species to learn it together. The entity began writing equations into reality. But now both humans and Zethrians could follow the concepts. Where once such knowledge would have overwhelmed them, their merged perspectives allowed them to grasp ideas that existed beyond traditional physics. It's showing us how to perceive the 11th dimension, Isabella breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. Not just theoretically, but experientially. This could revolutionize everything from space travel to our understanding of consciousness itself. And after that, Drake asked, watching the impossible mathematics dance before them. After that, Kaila's replied, we continue what your species inadvertently taught mine. We learn to see with new eyes. Again and again, across dimensions we haven't yet imagined. As human and Zethrian scientists worked together to decode the architect's lesson, Drake reflected on how far they'd come. The Zethrians' initial mockery had sparked not just technological advancement, but a fundamental shift in how both species perceived reality. Their greatest breakthrough hadn't been the dimensional drive or even contact with the architects. It had been learning that true wisdom comes not from accumulating knowledge, but from being willing to question everything you think you know. "Commander," Kumar called out, "we're receiving requests from 17 other species seeking to join our research coalition. Word of our success with the architects is spread." Drake exchanged looks with Xylos. "What do you think? Are we ready to become teachers ourselves?" The Zethrian's crystalline form pulsed with warm light. Perhaps that was the true test all along. Not whether we could master the universe's laws, but whether we could learn to share new ways of seeing them. Above them, the architect continued its lesson, writing the secrets of higher dimensions into the fabric of space-time. But now its audience included not just humans and Zethrians, but representatives from dozens of civilizations, each bringing their own unique perspective to the greatest scientific collaboration in known space. As Drake watched the gathered species working together, he realized that humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy hadn't been technology or even dimensional insight. It had been something far simpler and far more profound. The willingness to look at the impossible and ask, what if we're just not seeing it right? The answer, as always, was waiting in the higher dimensions. They just had to learn to look.
Like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Your support means the world to me and helps me keep creating amazing content for you.